Social Work Chennai between the year 2017 and 19, and he is also a member of National HRD. Going on to his accomplishments, he has been the president of Department Forum, HR Symphony 18, Main Meta School of Social Work, and he has also received the Best Library User Award 2019. He has secured third place for paper presentation on the topic Millennial Minds, Mimic Minds conducted by Potential Genesis 2017. And he has also received the Best Research Scholar Certificate 2017 funded by UGC Loyola College Chennai. And he has also been a cadet of NCC Army Batch 2014. Moving on to his work history, he has been working in Tafe Motors and Tractors Limited, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh since 2019. In his 2 years of work experience, he has created organizational flowcharts and launched studies to improve its overall organizational framework. He has designed and implemented orientation responsibilities to spearhead talent acquisition for various departments, and also supported learning and development team in conducting training and identification for employees across various levels. He has identified roles through responsibility assessment matrix and updated job description for all roles. And also, he has championed companies' principles of PMS by supporting employees and managers with goal setting and performance discussions. He has conducted new joiner survey and stay interviewers for employees. He has strengthened operational efficiencies and traceability by developing organizational filing systems for employee records. He has done major projects in white collar productivity and critical role mapping. His areas of skills related to HR are in recruitment, employee engagement, learning and development, talent management, and employer relations. And today, he's here with us with an interesting topic for the day. We are really glad to have your presence. We really welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Sushmita. That was a wonderful opening for me.
Yeah. Now, I would like to introduce our head of the department, Human Resource Management, DG Vaishnav College, Dr. N.C. Martin. And he is highly experienced academician and has about 20 years of academic and administrative experience as professor, HOD, dean, and registrar. He did his postgraduate in labor management and PhD in labor laws for Tamil Nadu Institute of Labor Studies. He as a lecturer from the same institution. He held various he was also the placement officer for entire division of SAMS College of Engineering and Technology. During his tenure, he successfully placed engineering and management graduates in top-notch companies of manufacturing and service sectors across the country. He continued his career in St. Joseph College of Arts and Science as a Dean of Academics. And he has also worked as a registrar in one of the best film schools in Asia, which is LV Prasad Film School. He acted as a jury representing the Employers Federation of Southern India for the selection of companies for the best practices for the year 2018 to 19. He has added number of research papers and publications to his credit, and he is expert in the subject of labor legislations and industrial relations. He has given centum results in various HR specialized subjects in the university examinations. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
This meeting is recorded for educational purposes. In case of any doubts or questions, the participants can unmute themselves or type the questions in the chat box. Now, I request Dr. N.C. Martin to speak few words about the topic for the day. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Sushmita, for the introduction.
Yes, sir.
So, very happy. Good evening to one and all present here. First of all, I'd like to welcome all the participants on behalf of our management, Sri Ashok Kumar Mudraji, our secretary, and our beloved principal, Dr. Santosh Babu. And I welcome all the participants, your students, professors, and HR fraternities. And I very much welcome, mostly pleased to welcome our resource person for the day, Mr. Saran Raj, Junior Manager at Cafe Motors. And today, the topic on the evolution of HR, and Mr. Saran is going to share his experience, that how his experience in over the recent changes, what is happening in the core domain of HR. So today it is our 50th series of webinar, where we started this webinar exactly the same month of last year, 2020. So it's about an year of thing, and because of the coordinated effort of the coordinators and below faculties and our webinar coordinators, Professor Subatini, we were able to succeed and achieve this type of webinars for our students. So coming to the topic, the evolution of HR. So as students of HR, it is important to understand the growth of HRM over the period of time. So the evolution of HRM over the period of time is important for understanding the philosophy, the functions and practice of HRM, so that are being followed in different situations, so as to understand the relevant HRM practices that have been evolved in the present situation. The concept of human resource management, we all know that it has emerged from the personal management. So this HR concept has evolved at the various stages of industrial relations, trade union, scientific management era, so behavioral science and human relations and so on. So hence the concept of HRM has gradually replaced the term personal management. Today, we could witness that there is a drastic changes in the core functions of HR. So as there been a exceptional surge over the last few years. So many global companies have established their presence in India, and they have introduced different HR perspectives and new HR practices. So no doubt that technology has made a huge impact on HR functions, and so this technology has led to new business models, and companies who have embraced the technology have made a huge impact on their businesses also. So these changes has brought a unique challenges for HR functions and HR professionals, and these HR professionals have seized the challenges and are equipping themselves to sustain in the business. So HR is already it's evolving from the process centric function to be more agile. So today the HRs are moving away from the process mindset to a more outcome based mindset. So the organization competitiveness will depend on its talent readiness and equipping the skill sets of the workforce, and so how the organization will bring in diversity of thought and perspectiveness for organizational excellence. So the changing requirements for new skill sets in field of data science, artificial intelligence, cloud, blockchain, etc., has a huge impact on the recruiting practices. So how these skills can be deployed in agile manner, so within the organizational or with the clients, has become very, very important. This also creates the need to build an enabling environment for constantly reskilling the talent, and this should be a continuous process, and where HR should redesign the compensation accordingly. So on the whole, I could say that due to the deploying new technology, not only lead to a better employee experience, but also helps to achieve business goals and also optimize the work process. So with this, I conclude and leave the session to our resource person to share his experience on the various growth and the stages of human resource development and human resource management. So thank you, all the best.
Hello.
Yes, sir, your presentation will be shared.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the very brief and good introduction about the topic. So today the presentation which I am supposed to do, evolution of HR. I took granted to go deep into the root of what was the root cause for HR to come. Before the evolution, what happened in the industry, and how would the industrial revolution happen. So I thought that will be correlation. That correlation will be more easy to understand the current situation, and I believe that will be useful and resourceful for the students. And I planned the session in a way that it can be over in a short period of time, and we can have one questionnaire session, because I might miss a lot of things while saying. When you ask questions, and I believe that will give you more insights on for oral students. Because I was there in that seat 2 years back. I believe that will do. Sushmita?
Yes, so sure. We will give our best in participating. Yeah, you can go ahead.
I couldn't see the presentation. Have you presented it?
Yes, sir. It is visible. Your PPT is shared.
But I couldn't see it.
Hold on, sir.
Yeah. Can anyone confirm that you can also see that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're able to see the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Fine. I'm having a copy of that.
Oh, okay.
So we will start. Yeah.
Yeah, you can pin a name called Nityangi, where she's the one who is presenting your PPT.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see this now. All right. So, Sushmita, I've covered almost everything about me. I just want to give a brief introduction about my company, which is TAFE, Tractors and Farm Equipments Limited. So this is basically an agri-machinery company, a manufacturing setup, assembly setup company, which was started in 1960s, and it's been successfully running till now, and it's been very progressive even during the pandemic times. The reason why I chose this topic is because I was there 2 years back in those areas where I have a lot of curiosity and ambiguity at the same time. So what will be the future, and where I will be, and what will be the placements for me, and those questions were there. I believe the same questions will be with you also. And at the same time, when I was sitting in placements, I missed a lot of points. I missed a lot of dots, and these dots have been connected after I came to know about these topics, that is industrial revolution and evolution of HR. I believe I missed those points, and I thought it should be useful for you if I present this to you. Next slide. Yeah, this is the session plan. So I'll just take you through kind of world tour for industrial revolution and why it happened in Europe, and what is industrialization and how it happened in India, and how the industrial revolution 4.0 or industry 4.0 impacted the human resource management as a function, and how HR evolved in India. And the last session, I would like it to be a questionnaire session, so that you can you can clarify your doubts with me if I know, and if I don't know, I can come back to you. Yeah. Next slide. Yes. So industrial revolution in a whole terms, it's a very broader topic actually, and I came to know about this because of my own reporting manager. So he was very curious and he reveals a lot of interesting facts about how industrial revolution happened and how it's impacting the current manufacturing process. That is very important, and that is very interesting also. And this happened by the mid of 1700s. So until then, there was a lot of different, I would say, a lot of different scenarios which we compare to till now. And first of all, the life expectancy was not that good at the point of time. It was the minimum will be 25 and maximum will be 35. And education was a privilege. It is not a right at that point of time. And there was during the 1700s, if you read War and Peace by Tolstoy, it was revolved around 1700s Russian war and other wars, because that century is full with wars, and the weapons they used won't kill more than dozens of people. And this industrial revolution created a huge impact on weapons also. And there was not enough transportation. The highest transportation with the speedest time is through horses only. And everyone was pretty much self-sustained in their own villages, which means they don't have a necessity to go out of their own village or village ships for any other things outside their village. They don't own anything outside their village, and also they don't buy anything outside their villages because they're self-sustained. So this is the story so far, and there comes the industrial revolution till now. So industrial revolution from 1.0 to 4.0, we have been a long way in 250 years. And if you see that, at that point of time, before the industrial revolution, there was no sufficient food also. But comparing that situation to right now, we are having we are having 3 times food without any deficiency, and we are having a good quality food. And pretty much, if you see anything and everything around us, it'll have an impact of industrial revolution. Just I'm talking from Bhopal, and you're all in different parts of city and towns in Tamil Nadu or out of states also. It's because of industrial revolution. If you are staying in townships, that is also because of industrial revolution. The antibiotics, the development of medicine from Crocin to the Covaxin, Covishield till now, these are all also due to industrial revolution. If water is coming in your tap, that's also industrial revolution. The bathtubs, the toilets, the bed sheets, and end to end, from the time we are awake till the time we sleep, everything is industrial revolution. And that is the importance of this industrial revolution. And if I have to sum up this in a short manner, before industrial revolution, 80% of the people in Europe depended on farming. They were peasants, and they have to feed themselves and also the rest of 20% population. And currently, right now in America, only 1% is involved in farming, who are feeding 99% of the American population. So that is the impact of industrial revolution. That is why we are going to see this in depth. Next slide, please. Yes. We'll break it one by one. So what happened in IR 1 and 2, 3, and 4? So Industrial Revolution 1, the major impact was the change of energy, fuel from wood to coal. And you could have asked me, sir, why Industrial Revolution didn't happen in India? Why Industrial Revolution didn't happen in China? Well, pretty much by 1700s or 1800s, everyone, India, China, and Europe, all were together or almost similar in power. China was very well civilized. They introduced a paper money. They introduced a paper in cents. They introduced the gunpowder. And India also at the same time, this highly civilized nation with a lot of, I would say, kingdoms. And why it happened in Europe? That is because the coal. Coal is a fuel and is a source of energy for industrial revolution. And it has a very interesting perspectives also. So it's a chain reaction that happened. Coal lead to steam engine. Steam engine lead to railways. Railways lead to steels. Steels lead to steam ships. And pretty much everything that improvised in the beginning. So for example, if we see, I don't know how many of you seen the weaving machine in countryside. So it has a simple instrument called the flying shuttle. So flying shuttle increase the speed of weaving. So which increase the demand for yarn, which increased the demand for fiber. So like this, everything is interconnected, and that is IR1, Industrial Revolution 1. Pretty much to sum up Industrial Revolution 1, it is machinery of production. And at one point of time, when the production is going extremely high, there is a lack of raw materials. And there are two reasons. So, and what happened in other parts of world? You can ask that question too. And this, due to the lack of raw materials, they started sourcing for outside the countries. And that is when it happened, imperialism and colonization of other countries. That's why British came to India. That's why Portugal, Spain, all the European nations come to India. And part two is massification of products. That is Industrial Revolution 2. A major chunk of credit for this Industrial Revolution goes to Henry Ford. I believe pretty much everyone knows who Henry Ford is. He's the father of Ford division of cars, biggest automobile sector at that point of time in US, and the biggest dynasty. So what happened when Henry Ford went to a tour in Chicago for to meet his friend, and he was visiting this slaughterhouse of cows. So there he found out one interesting perspective. Everything is going in sequence, starting from the cutting of skin and cutting of meat, and each level, everything is going very smooth. So this triggered in his mind, why can't we simulate the same situation in the production line? Until then, production line was, at a time, a group of people or 10 people are working on one machine, they'll be working till the end of that machine. So this slaughterhouse gave him a spark, and there was light in his head. So he said, instead of 10 people doing from end to end, let one person be specified in one small activity, so that will increase the speed of production. And obviously it did. So the production was very low before this massification of product. After Henry Ford introduced this assembly line concept, the cost of production have grown drastically low. It was $850 at that point of time. After he introduced this assembly line, the cost of T model car was $280. It was cut down by 1/4 in cost. That's why you can see there are n number of cars in US, and there are no bikes, because they preferred car, and which was originated by the Henry Ford's concept. And pretty much the energy source changed from coal towards from steam and coal towards electricity and petroleum. And this is where scientists came in picture. And agricultural mechanization happened, where we come in, the tractor manufacturers. The first tractor was manufactured in 1892. And there's an interesting fact here. Everyone knows Lamborghini, the car. It started its origin from tractor. And India's first tractor is Eicher Tractors, which is a part of Taffe Motors and Tractors. Yeah, and this Industrial Revolution in here, it spread from England, Germany, UK, and Japan. Pretty much the countries which participated in the World War I and II. And there is concept called greed and fear. So whenever there is excessive greed, there comes fear, and whenever there is an imbalance in greed and fear, there comes war. And that is why you can't see Industrial Revolution 3.0 between 1920s and 1970s. That 50 years is a huge gap because of the war. During the wartime, the Industrial Revolution didn't happen pretty much. That's a reason. And Industrial Revolution 3.0, it is completely computerization. In a point, we can say that Industrial Revolution has its seeds in war, because during the Second War time, the infamous Alan Turing, who introduced the machine called Christopher, which is a precursor for computer, came into picture. So these developments led to an actual computer in the later times by 1970s. From 1970s, computers came to picture, and they started ruling the world. And so from that point of time, a lot of things like data, mobile phones, internet, and renewable energy have changed. Renewable energy have come into picture from conventional energy sources, which creates more pollution. And from there, it is just data only, data, and it's n number of data. Whenever you click a mouse, it just converted into data. And here comes the evolution or updation of 3.0 is 4.0. So what is 4.0 in crux? So it is nothing but a digitalization of 3.0 end to end. So this physically in the 1.0 it was just a physical muscle power. Then 2.0 is machine power, and 3.0 is completely computerization, and 4.0 is just computers works alone without the command of human. That's far future, and near future is here, which includes 5G technology. If the pandemic is not there, the Chinese company Huawei have launched this in Australia or probably India too. And 3D printers, this have an enormous amount of application in terms of medicine, IT technology, and manufacturing sector, where except engine and other small components, it can produce end-to-end parts in 3D printing. And Internet of Things, we don't have to mention that. Everyone knows the Internet of Things, how it works. Everything connected to each other, and they coordinate with each other, and they do the work by themselves. And smart factories, big data, application of big data is tremendous, and it's humongous. So every click, if we can't see any of these applications alone, we have to see this together with the other application. For example, IoT with big data and 5G technology. Look at the speed. For example, China is trying to impose a facial recognition system. These days, we see in newspaper that this human happiness index, which is published once in a year. If with the help of big data and facial recognition system and others, if everyone can be seen through facial recognition system, we can do human happiness index each day like a weather report. So the applications are very huge, and simulations and vertical and horizontal integrations. These integrations are nothing but agile systems and machinery or manufacturing process. Yeah. Next slide. Yes. How this industry 4.0 or industrial development leads to HR improvement. So a report by World Economic Forum called Future of Jobs says at present at least 65% of children who go to primary school will work in jobs that do not yet exist when they completed the school education, because the job market, the definition for workforce, it is changing at a very fast manner we couldn't even imagine. So how it impacts HR from the point of strategic perspective. So HR functions are more broader. So we are functioning as HR generalist and HR business partners, and also general HRs. But in future, it might require to increase the specificity of HR. So there's a T model of growth. So if you put a horizontal line and you put a vertical line, it will come as T. That horizontal line is general HR and T is specialist HR. So over a period of time, a HR has to come together to form more specialists. So he should be a generalist as a whole, and he should be a specialist with n number of vertical lines. Vertical specialist, for example, I might know all the functions like from end to end, from joining, recruitment, orientation, induction, performance appraisal, training and development, and till retention and exit. I might have all this experience as a whole, but I should be a specialist in certain roles. For example, I might be a specialist in performance management, or I might be a specialist in recruitment. So as time moves on, specialization increases, and that increases the workforce. That impacts the workforce. The second point is that workforce. So over a period of time, there's a huge migration from muscle power to brain power or mind. So when this happens, there will be low skilled employees will get low wages, and high skilled employees will get high wages. The increasing specialization of functions due to this rapid changes might leads to increase of specialization of jobs, and that will leads to huge gaps in employment and unemployment. So at that point of time, the critical talents will be in such a position that they'll be highly required in the job market. So this will be a very huge challenge for the upcoming HRs. It is very difficult for, it might be very challenging for the HRs to acquire such a talent, and to retain such a talent will be a very huge challenge. So I've seen this in my organization. I'm seeing this in my organization where R&D function is very competitive, and there are more consultants and flexi workers and professionals, independent professionals who work for a certain period of time, and they are very liberal. They want to they will work for 6 months, and then they'll go out and enjoy their life, and then after 3 months, if they get bored or they spend their money, they'll go to another company through the consultant. So that's how the future workforce will be. Few years back, our fathers and our father's father might have been in a company for 40 years, 50 years, but now the retention is reducing. As the specialization increases, I believe the retaining of talent will be very difficult and challenging. And performance, the current conventional performance management system is it's devised, I believe, minimum 50 years back, about such as bell curve, and this will be changed in future. Already, a lot of IT companies which are looking futuristic have changed or moved towards continuous feedback method, and for each project they are reviewed and coached. So this will be another tremendous change in this area, from mentoring to coaching. So this current generation needs continuous feedback, and they need a pat in the back if they really did a really good work at times, then and there. And training, the training will be the impact of on training will be a huge disruption, I believe, because the others will be changed within the company, but the training, I could quote an example here, I believe, which happened for me. One day, my immediate boss asked me, I'm going to the secretariat of the state, and I asked why, and he said there's a meeting with state secretary, a senior IAS officer, and his another 2 specialist secretaries for education, and chair of AICTE, All India Council for Technical Education, and one of the huge education institutions owner. They're having a meeting on how to increase the technical capabilities of the students based on the industrial requirements. That's why my boss was asked to come attend that meeting to give the inputs. So we can see the change happening in the real time. So training and development might have a huge disruption on the education system itself. I believe that's mentioned in the education policy 2020 or 2019, and that is there. And environment. So based on the expectations of Gen X and Y, the working environment will change, and social media has a huge impact on current and future jobs, and this will bring more communication within the organization and outside the organization, and this, I believe, will democratize the work style. Yeah. Next slide. Right. So I thought of this slide, and it's not of much input, but I'll just go through this. So how the principles in India have changed during the industrialization in India. So industrialization in India, its major part, we can say, pre-independent and post-independence. During the pre-independence time, British had a very strong hold on our industries. They didn't let us grow. And after independence, we had foreign companies as well as Indian companies. And pretty much we know all the famous names: Tatas, Birlas, and TVS, ITC. And these companies had a huge role in forming the labor laws for us. And I mentioned the eras, how it changed. The principles of government have changed from socialistic principles towards capitalistic principles, and then from there it changed to globalization, LPG. Everyone knows about it or should know about it. And then the current policies, neoliberalization. And this is just a background, and I will explain in the next slide why I showed this. Yeah, please. right? So everything is because of this one slide. So I would like to quote. I think how many of you would have seen this? Have you know the Binny Mills and Binny and Carnatic Mills? Uh, I guess you would have known through the movies, a lot of Vijay and this Veda, Vikram and Veda. That movie also, the climax was shot there. How many of us know that Binny and Carnatic Mills is the origin of labor movement in Madras Presidency and also India? Madras Labor Union was the first labor union of India, and Benny Mills was the place where it was originated. So like that, people especially in Chennai, if you move around anywhere in Chennai, you will find history and you will correlate it with the Industrial Revolution. And keeping that in mind, during pre-independent era, Tata was the first institute, first company to establish a graduate work for social sciences, which is Tata Institute of Social Science, established in 1936. And followed by that, immediately after the independence, Indian Institute of Personnel Management was established in Kolkata, and XLRI was started in Jamshedpur, and National Institute of Labor Management was established in Bombay. And the objective of these institutes or professional bodies is to groom or to induct new managers or new employees who will be in the managing capacity. So before that, there was no such designation called personal management or HRD. It was just industrial welfare officers, industrial welfare, and like that. And it was not allowed to grow, I would say, because the trade union movements have led into national movement, and it was not specified for the development of industrial development. So after independence, by till 60s and 70s, the work of HR, what we're doing now, is termed as personnel management, and those jobs are pretty much on administrative basis, from recruitment. This recruitment is not like what we are doing. It is bulk recruiting. Like they will go to the villages, they will hire people, they bring them to the factories, or the employees. I remember I read in a book where people come from the villages and they stand in the gates for the employment. So that kind of personal management was there, and it was very administrative. They have to keep the records, they have to do the documentation work, and they have to do the leave administration and salaries, which we have to remember that these were done on the basis of pen and paper, and you can see the amount of burden on each person. And this period in connection with the last slide, it was very socialistic. It was labor prone, and it was not towards what we call the owner or occupier of the industries. Where I read about the economy, they have the owners have paid as much as 90% of tax on profit. So it was not. It was very much dominated by the government, and public sector enterprises was more at that point of time. Governments have their own established sectors for handling these functions, and private sectors called them personnel management. So by 1969, the students of these institutions or professional bodies started to coming inside the private industries, whom they were called as managerial class. So when they come in, there comes a need for training and development for them, and performance appraisal for them, and career development for them, which Indian Institute of Training and Development have been established in 1969. Here we have to quote very important personalities, T.V. Rao and Parikh. These two guys were the management gurus. We would say management gurus at that time, and till now they've been very reverend people in HR society. So they, in association, they were hired from IIM Ahmedabad by the L&T, Indian Engineering Company, for to conclude the HR functions, what improvements can be done in HR functions as a department. So they came up with an idea that okay, they sat and had one-on-one interviews with the HR functioning people, and then they come to a conclusion that yes, so there is some improvement needed, and we can say they are the precursors or pioneers in introducing the terms human resource development or human resource department. So which includes from training and development, personal performance appraisals, compensation benefits, and other parts. So after that, National Institute of Personnel Management was established in 1980, combining IAPM and NILM together in 1980s. Then by 1985, National HRD was started, and which we are a member of. A lot of people might be a member of that. And currently, strategic human resource management. So this is the future, and this is the current and current progress, which is in current progress, and this is what the demand of the hour. So what is expected out of HR at this point of time? TV Rao have very beautifully explained this part in his paper on 2013. HR have 5 levels, starting from level 1. HR will be an HR administrator, where he'll be dealing with the record keeping and documentation. And level 2 would be monitoring, which will be monitoring of the statutory parts and collecting data and doing some analysis. That part is level 2. And level 3, so he will be introducing or redesigning the existing process or performance, whatever the functions happening, how the recruitment happens, how it can be improved, like that, and completely redesigning and re-implementing the current, improvising the current process. That is level 3. And level 4, from there, the HR has to move from, or he will be moving to talent management. So identifying the important role inside the organization and developing them through 360 degree feedback appraisal, or through development centers, or through such other functions which deals with the critical talents of the business. And in this 4th stage, he mentions about the strategic human resource management. So he wants the HRs to be aligned with the business, and he asked it should be business-based HR. That's what he says. And he introduced the term organizational development in 1977 itself. And in level 5, he says HR should be as a business. So at this point in the HR career, that HR person should be thinking everything in the point of business. So if he's hiring a person, he should think how this particular talent will impact the business. And that is what he recommends for a HR to develop within him for the near future. Next slide. Right. I think we come to almost last segment of our seminar, HR growth in me. So this is a little about me, from the stage of where you are. So obviously we have an introduction about HR in classes, and what we attended through the classes, and from the books we read in library. And after that, I think after coming here, I have more admiration for this learning pattern, 70:20 into 10. 70% learning comes through experience, 20% through training, and only 10% comes through reading. So it's really very interesting perspective. I thought I read a lot of books and I got a lot of knowledge. But when it comes to experience, in the 70% experiential learning, it stays long. Its retention was very strong. And that's where comes the importance of internship experiences. So when I went to first internship manufacturing setup, I literally couldn't correlate anything. And the second internship, it gave more clarity, and third internship, the time and patience. I did my third internship in TAFE itself, and there over a period of time, I came to learn a lot. And without knowing, I was knowing a lot. So that's the importance of experiential learning. And placement planning, I would suggest, I was very keen I should choose manufacturing setup, because the very thing before on preparing for placements is we should know ourselves, where we will be fit in. And we have to build our networks. I think that is very important for HR person, and I am very happy and blessed with such networks, good people, and I have a good mentor. And I suggest everyone should to have a mentor who will have a real and care for you on your professional growth, and strengthening our basics. This whenever my juniors or my super juniors ask me how to face the placements, I would suggest them, and I'm suggesting them to strengthen the basics, because not everyone is perfect, and we should be strong in the basics where it starts. And I believe that's important. And in this flexible world and the changing times, we should be ready to adapt to the environments, changing situations, and I believe that sums it up. And I would like to conclude this session with a story from Japan. It's called the Japan fish story, where Japanese people love to eat fish. So the fishermen at the beginning went to the sea and catch fish, but that couldn't tally the demand in Japan. So they went far, and then they tried catching fishes, and coming back, the meat was not very fresh and it was very stale. And then they thought of a solution that, okay, we can include the ice boxes. So they kept the ice boxes in the ships, and then they went very far, catch the fish and brought it back. Still, the Japanese people don't think it is giving that taste of fresh fish. Okay, and then they thought of a solution. Okay, we'll create a fish tank and then they will catch the fish and put it live in the tank, and then bring it back. Still, because when the companies started thinking about the companies or the own profit, they put a lot of fishes in single tank, which they have very little space to move. It is very fin to fin situation. So they stopped moving at a certain point of time, and they stalled at some certain situation. So still, the Japanese people felt the difference in taste. So finally, they came up with a solution, which is very interesting, and it is relevant to us also. Anyone guess if I would like to hear, because themes seemed like very monologue phase. Anyone have any ideas how they did it? Anyone? All right, that's fine. So they simply introduced a simple solution, which is they introduced a shark in the tank. So a small shark, whenever it is hungry or something, it had some few fish, and that shark kept the rest of the fishes alive. I would like to compare this shark with a change, and we have to be very agile to the change. If we stop changing, the change will consume us. That's what I feel, and the story inspires me a lot. So we should work on change, and we should be constant touch with change, and we keep changing according to the change. And once Ron Hubbard, an American story writer, told, man thrives only in the presence of challenging environment. And Bernard Shaw once said, satisfaction is a death. So we should be very agile. And that's all from me. And if you have any questions or any doubts, anything you want to ask, I'm open. Sushmita, over to you.
Yes, sir. If participants have any doubts or queries, please unmute yourself or type it out in the chat box, and I will read it out for you, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. This is Kausalya.
Yeah, Kausalya, please.
Sir. So now we are discussing about Industrial Revolution 4.0, and soon it's moving towards Industrial Revolution 5.0. But
Yeah.
still, in many manufacturing industries, the employee profiles are maintained in paper documents. Why is it still not digitalized, sir?
Yes.
I'm asking this question based on my internship experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a very good question, actually. I had the same question when I came inside the manufacturing setup. Because if you see what the current government is doing, it's trying to bring in new labor laws, right? They're trying to, I think you'll be aware of it. The government is trying to bring in labor laws, or they're trying to compile around 40 labor laws into 4 codes, right? So we have a lot of statutory norms to be filled. There are n number of statutory complaints to be adhered to the government. So we have to keep papers ready for the government audits. So I believe that is one of the major reasons where the paper stays still. Anyhow, when I came here, I suggested my seniors that yes, the same question which you asked, and we simply did one small change. We just introduced a fast moving scanner. We put them from end to end. We just scanned everything and then put it in the racks. And if there's an audit, we'll open it and show. Else not. When and where then and there is a need, so we'll, for our references, we take it digitally only. Does that answers you?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Now it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so we have lots of questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I'm happy to see the questions. I'll just go one by one. Prashant, you mentioned about specialization increases, the retention would be difficult. What can be done to retain employees? And that's okay. See, as I mentioned in this one, specialization increases and retention decreases. At such a situation, we have to change the job description itself. So, and it is a near future, and it will be happening soon. So our hiring policies would not be the same as it is. So we have to change according to the changes happening in future, right? So at that point of time, we would be the workforce, the pool of workforce might not be within India. So currently, if I'm in Bhopal, I'm looking for people near Bhopal. So in the future, if the specialization increases, I might not look in Bhopal itself. I might look for a person who might be in Africa or who might be in Europe. So they can work from that location itself, because we currently see our education, we are doing it through online, and our workforces, 50% of workforces are working from online itself, and most of the IT companies are working from online, work from home. And this could be the change. This could be the future. And does that answer your question, Prashant? You can say yes or no. Okay, I take that as a yes. And Nirikshana, balance between technology and people. The only one word answer for this is upskilling. So as I said in the shark and the fish example, so you have to keep upskilling yourself. Until and unless you upskill yourself, the technology will take over us. That is my humble request for everyone, to be in touch with the present and upgrade yourself according to the future. And Kirtana, COVID period, what is the most preferred PMS tool adopted by manufacturing process? Okay, this is actually a very difficult question to answer. What happens is, yes, we are looking forward for performance management system, but the entire focus of human resource department currently is mostly on welfare of the people. So before, of course, we will deliver this the commitment done during the joining time, but currently it is entirely focused on welfare of the people. We know the situation, and there are a number of lockdowns throughout the country, and whether or not we know the seriousness, it is very serious. And I am personally experiencing a lot of disruption because of this COVID, and it's very challenging to run the factory right now. Of course, we'll do this. There's no any preferred or unpreferred method of performance appraisal. It's all depends upon the nature of work, what they are doing, and the culture which was developed by them. So the performance appraisal is purely based on the culture. That's my understanding. And Ramya. Okay, strategic ways to recruit at this situation. All right, that's a good question. See, earlier we used ways. I'm saying in terms of manufacturing setup. Earlier we used a method called HR budgeting. We have a workforce budgeting, and then we budget for the whole year. But with the change in situation, we do a lot of study on manpower productivity. That's what I think Sushmita have read in introduction. That's called white collar productivity. We do the job utilization of each person, each role rather. So whether that role is 100% utilized in terms of time. So we have certain metrics. We measure the productivity of that person. So if that productivity is 100 or above 100 till 120 percentage, then we will take the replacement. If not, for example, if the productivity of a person is around 60%, and if a team has 4 people and one person is leaving, and he's having the productivity of 60% when he is leaving, we might divide that 60% into 3 parts and then give that role to the 3 people, so that it will keep the other 3 engaging. At the same time, we don't need to take another resource. I think that answers the question. So the brief is strategies change according to the business need, and it changes according to the time. And Jayashree, in order to strengthen the basics of HR, what can be done and what are the questions to be covered? Okay. Right. So what we read in books might be different from what is being practiced in real, right? And we would have faced this in a lot of internships, and because I think all the HR advanced concepts are from West, and in India we haven't been developed to that level, and we are really progressing very fast towards that stage. And when we go into companies, I would suggest people to take your preferred companies and keep follow on them, keep a track on their practices. For example, recently I thought Ford have given its intern an exercise to collect the best practices in the top 50 companies in Fortune 500, or the Indian companies. So by doing that, you might see the gap between the textual knowledge and the actual knowledge. By correlating this, you will find where is the gap, and identifying that gap, you can fill that through reading or online courses or like that. I think that sums up Jayashree. Okay, Vibhakar. Okay, Vibhakar asked about retention of manufacturing sector. So he rightly said that, see, culture differs from place to place, and the current okay, so he's asking about how the contract labors affects the current employment and also the retention of the employees. So yes, we are moving towards that stage only. As I said before, the employment moves from conventional stage towards more contractual basis. Yes, it's happening, and the labor codes also supporting the labor codes. Whatever came out so far seems supporting the contract labors, and to the benefit or to the advantage, they're also adding a lot of benefits for such contract labors. And this is going to be the future, because I believe our labor laws is highly complicated, and it's very time consuming to maintain such laws altogether. And retention on manufacturing setup, So it all depends on place, location, and expectations of the employee. I believe that that will answers. So because uh, if an employee is leaving within 1 year, or if an employee is leaving within 2 year, I believe he is not a right hire, or something happened, some mistake happened during the recruitment process. If it's for a genuine reason, yes, that's well and fine. And if it's not, then I think it's a wrong hire. So retention begins from recruitment itself. Okay, Anusha, Agile HR system. What are the HR practices that is followed in Agile HR, and what are the skills required for HR as become agile? Okay, the term agile in itself is keeping in constant touch with present, right? I think that is agile. So I would suggest you to be in touch with your kind of industry. For example, you are a person who wants to work in IT. I would suggest you to go through the changes or current shifts in IT, and and update yourself on that particular part, right? So HR practices, right? So if you want me to specify certain areas of HR in the current scenario, I highly recommend emotional intelligence and HR analytics, which everyone needs to develop in the near future, because that will be the immediate change. As I mentioned in TV Rao's levels of cascading HR. So this agile platform for the current HR student will be level 3 to level 4. So that is redesigning the existing practices, and another one, investing on talent management. So these are the keywords. One is redesigning the current practices, and another one is focusing on talent management. These could be the focus area for you for your placements and for knowledge purpose also. I believe that answers Anusha. Any more questions? And if I didn't satisfy your answer, you can ask me again too. No problem.
Participants, do you have any more questions? Okay, through the chat box, they are actually satisfied with your answer, sir. And thank you so much. That was actually a very wonderful session. And now I would request Ms. Soundarya Lakshmi to deliver the vote of thanks.
Before you're a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. I, Soundarya of First MA HRM, take this wonderful opportunity to thank our esteemed speaker, Mr. Saran Raj, Junior Manager, Tafe Motors and Tractor Limited, for sharing his valuable insights and knowledge on the topic Evolution of HR in Me. I would like to share a few key takeaways from today's session. HR should be generalist as a whole and should also have specialized role. As specialization increases, retaining workforce will become more difficult. HR has 5 levels in organization: administrating, monitoring, redesigning, talent management. HR should think everything from a business point of view. We, or the future HRs, would really work on understanding provided by our lively speaker. Sharing is caring is an age-old proverb. True to this thought, I would like to thank our PG Department of HRM's pillar, our HOD Dr. M.C. Martin for arranging this webinar, and our Professor Subhatini for her support to organize this webinar. Finally, I extend my gratitude to participants and various professions and students. Kindly fill up the feedback form which is provided in the chat below with your name and email ID. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, Soundarya, for that conclusion. I think whatever I've delivered reaches the people, and if you have any doubts or queries or anything, I'll be in the reach through LinkedIn. My ID is Saran Raj. If you type Saran Raj and TAFE, I'll be there. So happy to help, and very much happy to guide if you want any queries. I'll be happy to answer that. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Sushmita, for inviting, and thank you, faculties and principals, sir, for providing me this opportunity. Thank you all. Thank you, wonderful participants.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.